this Epstein guy. There were so many people that knew him. There were so many of the rich and famous that knew him. He was, when it came to the public, pretty much relatively unknown. He was unknown until, the scandal breaks, and then he's killed in prison. And then you made a martyr out of him.
A lot of people on Epstein Island. A lot of people were on Epstein Island. Michael Jackson was there, because it doesn't matter if you're black or white. Bill Clinton was there, but he's going to testify and be like, I didn't know. Mick Jagger was there, but maybe he couldn't get no satisfaction.
3.5 million. There's 3.5 million files in this latest tranche, which is incredible, and then it's also only 50%. They've only released 50% of all the Epstein pedophiles. There's photos, there's videos. They released the MLK files, they released the JFK files, and now they released the Epstein files. Why did we hold back on the JFK and the MLK files? Why were those files held back for so long? 63 is when JFK was shot, 68 is when Martin Luther King was shot. And what did we learn from all this? 3.5 million files. And that's only 50% of all of them. That's a lot of files. That is a lot of files. Maybe they are thinking they're going to release all this in February, and then when it comes to November, then all the furor and all the fervor will have died down by then.
This one hurts for the comedians. Chris Tucker was there. Yeah. But in his defense, it was Friday. He didn't have no job. And he didn't have shit to do. And he left really quickly. It was rush hour. You had to see Jackie Chan.
So we got the usual suspects. Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew is in there. Bill Gates. Theil. Peter Thiel. He was in there as well. Whitney Cummings. Apparently, Jeffrey Epstein's one of his favorite comedians is Whitney Cummings. So not like she's in there, but her name is mentioned. Jon Stewart's name was mentioned, but as like a narrator for some show for Woody Allen. You also had Robin Leach. Robin Leach of the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous back in the 80s and 90s. I'm Robin Leach. This is Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Okay, I don't know what his actual accent was, but the accusation was incredible. It said something about choking a person to death or killing a person. There's been so much crazy stuff that has come out. I mean, there was the president's in there, right, thousands of times. He was a part of some sort of, he was on Lake Michigan or some shit, and there was a baby born, and they threw the baby into the damn ocean. I want to get precise, and I want to say the exact thing, so I want to be more specific. So I'm going to go ahead and try to document all the findings that we have.
Jay-Z is in the Epstein files. Now he's got 100 problems. That's crazy. Jay-Z was allegedly there when a specific crime was committed. He's there in the documents. Hasn't made a response yet. Pusha T was there, but I wasn't a fan, and neither were you probably, so it's fine. There's not a lot of Pusha T fans out there. You rarely hear, who's your Mount Rushmore in hip-hop? Oh, Pusha T! Well, sure, it's Pusha T, right up there with Vanilla Ice.
Okay, so there was an email that was sent to Epstein where the person that sent it just said age 10. Which, is he saying that's what he was asking for, or is he saying that's what he had found? I mean, what the hell is going on, frankly? What the hell is going on? Now, Bill Gates. So apparently Bill Gates had emailed Epstein, and he said he got an STD. Well, it seems like it was from some Russians. So Bill Gates gets an STD from some Russians, and he asked Epstein to sneak in some medicine into his wife's soup because he catches the STD from whatever Russian girls or women that Epstein had provided. And then when he gets the STD, he gave that STD to his wife, Melania, whatever his old wife, I think Melinda, right? They've since divorced, but he gave her an STD. And then was asking Epstein to slip in some sort of, Mickey, like an antibiotic Mickey, some sort of, antiviral Mickey into her breakfast, into her soup, maybe inject it or something. I mean, this is, even if Bill Gates, that's kind of a problem that you should, take care of your own, but to ask Epstein to take care of it, that's just crazy. He's talking about how, he has his Microsoft, he put his Microsoft into some Russians. That's Sammy Obed. He was also talking about how Windows was always catching viruses, and then makes you wonder, what did McAfee know? We probably should release the McAfee files. He died mysteriously in prison as well. Jeffrey Epstein was a big Whitney Cummings fan. They redacted the names of pedophiles. And then they released some naked pictures of children. So the DOJ, the government, releases, 50% of all the files, 3.5 million files, some videos, some photos. And they redacted the name of the person that said age 10. You're sending an email to Jeffrey Epstein and you said age 10. What the hell could you be talking about? Why did so many people know this Epstein guy? When you get a shit ton of money, this is what you're engaged in, this is what you're doing, this is what you're not thinking about, building a homeless shelter. You're not thinking about health care for everybody, universal basic income. You're not thinking about infrastructure. You're not thinking about building a subway or some sewage. You're not thinking about long-term whatsoever. This is the extra shit that you're doing? Lutnick was in there. Bannon was in there. Steve Bannon did an interview. The first time I actually heard what Epstein even sounded like. Lutnick had said that he had met Epstein in 2005 and then found out something about him and said he was disgusting, and he said, "I never talked to him again." But the emails came out and said, yes, he actually did. He called and emailed Epstein afterwards. They were next door neighbors, 8 steps away. So Lutnick is in the Epstein pedophiles. Bannon, Elon Musk. Then you have, these are, just in general names, so your name being in it isn't a conviction, but there is some implication, right? Larry Summers, Woody Allen, Sir Richard Branson, somebody named Tish, T-I-S-C-H. Melania's in there. Brett Ratner's in there. Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Summers, Musk, Bannon, Lutnick, Chris Tucker apparently,
And William Hung, you know what I mean? Like the goats. The f***ing goats. Yeah, so Pusha T's in there, Jay's in there, Jay-Z is in there, so it was a good weekend for Drake. He's got rivalries with both of those guys. Yeah, so Drake had some legendary beef with Pusha T some years ago. It was at a point where they were supposed to be rapping, but then it just turned into insults. So that's how it got really ugly. And then
Peter Thiel.
Drake and Jay-Z had a falling out in the last few years because I forget exactly what happened, but Jay-Z was supposed to sign Drake for something, or somebody who knew. I'm not the best person, or somebody who knew.
This is Pod 5, the first fully immersive sleep system. Intelligent.
Who knew. I'm not the best person for hip-hop inside information.
Peter Thiel, the guy that says this whole humanity thing, I don't know if this whole humanity thing is working. Should we save humanity? I don't know. Should we save this, wretched species, this wretched race, this goddamn parasitical virus? Peter Thiel had visited Epstein a few times. he even admitted this, like he said this out loud. He said that he was introduced to Epstein by a person named Reid Hoffman. Who's Reid Hoffman? And that he was introduced to him as a smart tax guy. And then Epstein himself at that interview in Bannon had said that because he had a Texas Instrument calculator, he like immediately, rose to the top of like the tax, stock market shit somehow. He talked about also how do you measure reputation. So clearly it seems like he's definitely into some blackmail crap, and not just Mossad, but CIA, Rockefeller, Trilateral Commission. How in the hell is this guy, this math teacher, kind of from nowhere, and then he's got like rich properties, sprawling estates, a ranch in New Mexico, $1 million property in New York, that island, let's say Florida, he owns some property, he's got property. Why does Epstein, how is he so rich? How is he so rich? And how is he able to operate under the radar for such a long time with nobody being none the wiser? So apparently, to Peter Theil, Epstein knew how to structure a non-profit intelligently. Oh, he was really smart when it came to structuring a non-profit. And then maybe if you are rich, to find that tax guy that knows how to hide the assets and the money. Epstein pointed out fractionalized banking. Fractionalized banking is actually insane. It makes no sense for banks not to be offering credit to the American people. If there's American people that don't have enough credit to build their own fucking homes, that is so wretched and disgusting. The wealth inequality is such a huge gap. There's such a huge gap with wealth inequality. It's French Revolution type of conditions. And then when you find out that the rich and powerful, the elites are disgusting, perverted, corrupt sons of bitches. So Peter Thiel was saying that he had visited Epstein a few times and he should have looked more into it. Yeah, you think? But Peter Thiel had emailed Jeffrey Epstein. When the new tranche of the Epstein pedophiles came out, he says, Peter Thiel emailed Jeffrey Epstein saying, "That was fun. I'll be back in 3 weeks." Oh, that was a great time. Well, loads of fun. I'll be back in 3 weeks. How many times have you ever asked for a party at H&R Block? I'm going to H&R Block. What you doing this Friday night? I'm going to H&R Block. I can't wait to go back. My God, I went to H&R Block, got my taxes done. It was a good time. It was so much fun. So much fun. So I think Jeffrey Epstein, according to Sami Obed, he just straight up said he was Mossad in one of the emails. None of this surprises me, but it does, Chomsky, right? So somehow they were able to get Chomsky into the fucking fold.
But I do know that Drake and Jay-Z were not on the best terms. And specifically, Jay-Z had some kind of chip on his shoulder against Drake, and vice versa. And that's why a year ago, Jay-Z helped get Kendrick booked for the Super Bowl. Because I don't know if you know this, Jay-Z books a Super Bowl because you got to be a pedophile apparently. And allegedly, holes.
Graham Elwood was an expert on this Epstein stuff. He was talking about this stuff 5 years ago, I wonder what he's doing. Last time I saw him, he was in Asia, just kind of living it up, made some money on Bitcoin. Elon Musk was super desperate to go to the Epstein party and wasn't able to go. So, that was a windfall for, Elon Musk. Hey, man, where's the party? Can I go to the party? No, we don't want you to go to the party. Fine. I don't care if you don't let me go to the party. Prince Andrew, he was laying over some person. They're redacted, so you can't tell if it was like a woman or a girl. And then he's like jumping up on the marble tabletop in the kitchen. So he's like trying to be fun and playful, like chasing some. All you can see is just, redacted. All you can see is just like a black square running around. And it very well could be girls underage, or very well could be, you know, overage girls. If it was Virginia Goofery, I feel like they should unredact that shit. Because, you know, sometimes you're protecting them, but sometimes you're not protecting them at all. Because if he was engaged in underage, you know, bullshit, crimes, if he was engaged in underage crimes, then you're not protecting the victims, because we, the public, don't know what he's actually engaged in. So with Virginia Goofery, she's, you know, one of the first persons that was courageous enough to step forward. And then something happened, she gets in a car wreck, and then she's just got so many injuries that eventually they say she offed herself. But I wonder about the car wreck, you know, who was behind this car wreck thing. And then with Prince Andrew, you know, it's kind of creepy, because I guess I don't particularly think of him as a dashing person. But if it's, you know, a 20-year-old, well, he's allowed to, you know, go around tickling a 20-year-old, right? He's allowed to, you know, kind of, he was like laying over a woman that was, or a girl, you know, again, redacted, that was on the ground. But because he's a gross person, you know, it's gross to be a part of that. It's gross to watch. But this was also the same thing that Epstein was doing at the same time. He was kind of like chasing some of the females around the same kitchen. So it's like who, and it was the same perspective, like from the one end. So the same person that videotaped Jeffrey Epstein running around chasing some, you know, girls/women is the same person or same viewpoint that had filmed Jeffrey Epstein or Prince Andrew doing the same thing. So yeah, that's just some of the information that I've took some notes on. I'm gonna continue to take some notes. There was a guy that had read like 100,000. He read like 100,000 emails or of the, you know, files or whatever, and he was still reading. He said he was a document researcher. I think that's the kind of people that you need to talk to, and I think that the media should actually get in, you know, and just talk about all these things, because, you know, yeah, one's an allegation, but I just don't feel like people are calling the FBI making up a bunch of shit. Yeah, people are crazy and people can make up stuff, but people aren't just calling up the FBI. I mean, if you get to the point where you're like, you know what, the FBI needs to be involved in this, I think for the average, you know, layperson, that's heavy duty. That's big shit. You're not just calling 911. You're not just calling the local police. You're getting the big dogs in, right? You're getting the FBI. So a lot of these you could just say is like allegations, and there's no corroboration, and then you don't even, you know, some of it's euphemisms, so you don't even know specifically who's saying what, but something's going on. Something is fucking going on, you know? It's not nothing.
But, Cheetah, but, so allegedly, okay, so Jay-Z basically booked the Super Bowl now, and he booked Kendrick last year specifically because he knew Kendrick was going to come out and perform They Not Like Us, which is the most popular diss track ever made, and it's specifically about Drake. And so, yeah, and I don't know if you saw that Super Bowl last year, and he comes out, and the whole crowd says, it's his famous line where he's like, A minor! The whole fucking crowd does it. Drake is scarred for life, right? And listen, I don't know exactly, because if you Google what did Drake do, there's no evidence that he engaged with a minor. It's kind of just rumors and maybe some pictures, but there's no evidence that he did anything, you know, explicit with a minor. I don't know what the case is. I mean, I think all rich people are creepy anyways, right? Yes. Yes, that's why I only perform at bars, okay? So,